This becomes an issue when I'm leading or attending learning sessions. There's always some Nudnik spoiling it for me. So today I'd like to explore what I call the Nudnik problem. So we can understand what's going on with Nudniks, why we feel about them the way that we do, and consider some wise and compassionate ways to deal with them. So first, before we go to the text, oh, and for this, I'll invite folks, you can, if you would like, respond to things in the chat. That's totally fine. You can also unmute yourself. Both are totally fine. So yeah, before we get to it, I'm going to invite perhaps a working definition for Nudnik. So folks, what's a Nudnik? Has anyone heard this word before? Okay, so we want to take a shot at it.
I will.
Please.
It, it's a person that makes inappropriate comments that aren't necessarily germane to the topic being discussed. And he goes on and on and on with never getting to the point, kind of like what I'm doing here.
You're doing great.
Okay, but that's to me what a definition of a nudnik
Yeah.
is.
I like that. So there are a few parts there, right? Definitely the going on past when they're sort of welcome could be part of being a nudnik. And I think being off topic, as you're saying, I think that is very common as well. Anyone else? What are your associations with the word? What else might make a nudnik?
When I think of a nudnik, I think of someone who's like actively trying to get a rise out of you
Mm.
as the facilitator. Maybe they don't notice that they're doing it, but they like
Mm.
hit on all of your
Mm.
buttons, sometimes just for the sake of like raising these questions.
I like this. So you're bringing up a few things, Rabbi Zaslow, right? That the nudnik, it is someone who's getting to you. In some ways, it's a little subjective. Samantha, it's a fine question. We'll be getting to that in a moment. Right, that the nudnik, whatever it is they're up to and whatever reason they're doing it, they are getting to you with doing it. And I think you made a good point as well, that it could be intentional or unintentional, right? Whether they know it or not, they seem to be doing this. Thank you, Cantor. I think that's fair as well. When people are sort of missing the point, either they go big or they go small. That would be another way of being a nudnik. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna go to Samantha asked for a definition. I'm gonna go to my source sheet. Give me a moment here. Okay, I assume everyone can see that. So I will, I don't know if apologize is the word, but I generally avoid using AI for most things, especially creative ones. But AI seemed to be the easiest way just to get a nice succinct definition of Nudnik. Oh, and also for the sake of this, I'll just do the reading, unless at some point I'm running out of my own oxygen, in which case I will invite someone else to read. So, Nudnik comes from Yiddish, which is rooted in some Slavic languages. A nudnik is someone who is annoying, boring, or persistent. The root is nudyen, to pester or bore, and apparently it's got some roots in Russian to mean to bore or be tedious. So, for the sake, hold on, I want to make sure I have the comments up as well. Sorry, give me one moment, folks. There we go. Okay. Finn, that is a fine question. I apologize that etymologically I'm going to fail you today. But it is that I had that same question as well. So for the purposes of our discussion, there are three traits that characterize Nudnikism. Oh, I see. Yep, hold on. That's a good question as well. Give me a moment. I'm going to share the... Hey, could my co-host, I think you have access, could you post the link to this?
Let me look. I'm not sure you sent this to me, but I can
No,
definitely
I sent it to somebody.
double check.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Let me see if I hit. I can try that as well right now. You know what? I can take care of it. That's an easy one. All right, y'all. Here you go. Okay, let me get chat back up. Okay, awesome. All right. So there are three traits that I'm going to talk about to characterize the Nudnik. Annoying, boring, and persistent. I don't think all three are necessary, though. I'd say it's annoying and or boring, but always persistent. If someone is persisting in boring and or annoying you, I think they're going to qualify as a Nudnik. Before we go further, I also want to acknowledge that this can be a charged topic, since we're talking about judging how others behave in social spaces. So I want to make a few assertions that hopefully will make our conversation less problematic. So first of all, the nunnik is in the eye of the beholder. When I find what I find boring or annoying may not actually bore or annoy you, and vice versa. So when I refer to nudniks, I'm not referring to some sort of objective set of people, but simply to the people that I experience as nudniks, and you can feel free to do the same. It is, as we'll see, sort of debatable if somebody is a nudnik or not. So that's first of all. Second, everyone, even the boring and annoying ones, deserve dignity and compassion. The nudnik is still a human, still someone with integrity, and someone who makes sense to themselves. And then finally, hopefully this also reduces some of the charge in the environment. I could be a nudnik myself, and we will get into why very soon. Before we continue, I just, want to address, are there any other concerns you have about having this discussion? Because again, it feels like we're sort of raising up, judging people for things. We will not use names, but just the same, if you have any concerns, give you some space to share that. Okay.
I have
And you
just
can,
one thought or comment.
oh, yes.
I think one of the things that because I read through the description and I was like, oh, this could get real dicey really fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's because this is also not necessarily somebody that you like highly disagree with. Like this can also be somebody who is completely on the same line of thought, and yet it can also be somebody who's completely feels like they're off the rails from like your personal or my personal line of thinking. And so um, I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that there can be an ambiguity and like just
Mhm.
because somebody disagrees with you, that does not mean that they need to be classified as this or vice versa.
Excellent. Yes, I really like that point. I mean, often, right, it's the nudnik that right? The nudnik who's in the room with me because they're in my community and we might agree on every single thing, and yet I'm struggling with them. And alternatively, right, with the right, uh, sort of social niceties, a person who disagrees with me might still be able to do so in a non-nudnik fashion. Rabbi Jacobson.
So I'm curious and excited about this, but how do I put this? I often think that I'm the problem. Like that I'm just not patient enough, that I'm not tolerant enough, that I'm actually kind of like when someone bothers me, I just like I think I'm the problem. Like I'm just being really intolerant, and it's usually unnecessary, and usually they mean no harm, and it's just maybe me being a jerk. So like I just find it as like a like almost like a Musar thing, like be
Awesome.
better, be more patient, be more tolerant, you know?
You are actually anticipating an awesome source that I found later on here. So that is an excellent insight. Okay, so great. And I appreciate my dad already listing some of the ways a person can be a nudnik, all right, by sort of going off topic, by going on and on. Folks in the room, and again, you can sort of unmute or write in the chat. What else? What are some other nudnik behaviors? What might someone be doing where you turn to them and say, stop being a nudnik, or you think in your head, gosh, this nudnik.
Um, someone who interrupts all the time, that doesn't let you complete a thought or, get your words out.
Yep, that's an excellent one as well. Yep, just they are the ones. I like this too, Libby. I think that goes hand in hand with what Jeff just said, right? That the nunnik wants to keep going and they're not necessarily paying attention if anyone else is interested. And there can definitely be an arrogance to it. That could be one reason why they just talk. Yep. Awesome. So I'll add, what else do you have here? Distracting, yes. A know-it-all can be a nudnik. Turns a conversation into a lecture, yes, very good as well. Yeah, things that I wrote down, I think monopolizing, monologuing, telling stories that go nowhere, nitpicking, incessant questioning, playing devil's advocate, and a few other things that I'll get into later. So I want to do today is, Josh, that's a good one too. Thank you. Get into some Jewish texts that involve various nudniks to see how they're doing it and how the people in these scenes feel about them. All right. So first, the classic. There was another incident involving one Gentile who came before Shammai and said to Shammai, "Convert me on condition that you teach me the entire Torah while I'm standing on one foot." Shammai pushed him away with the builder's cubit in his hand. He was a carpenter. The same Gentile came before Hillel. He converted him and said to him, "That which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That is the entire Torah, and the rest is its interpretation. Go study." So the first question, this Gentile, is he being a nudnik or not? I can hear my partner yelling from downstairs, but if she would like to unmute, she could say that.
Yes, this person is being a nudnik. They're only doing it to bother the Shammai and Hillel.
What makes you think that?
Isn't it part of the story? No, it's another one.
Yeah, not in this
Yeah.
one.
Well, it reminds me of like rabbi baiting, where like you're going to different teachers in order to get a specific answer that you want, or like just to see what will happen. It doesn't feel like it's done in good faith.
Interesting. Right. So that's sort of a key part here is this person trying to get a rise out of these rabbis or not? So, if we go to this first principle that the nunnik is in the eye of the beholder, we actually immediately get two different answers. Shammai would say, yes, you can see by Shammai's behavior that he is not interested in entertaining this guy's questions. And on the other hand, Hillel seems to respond as if it's a totally normal thing to do. So whether or not the guy's trying to be one, Hillel thinks Hillel's not experiencing him as one. For anybody here, how would you feel if you were approached like this? And I'll totally, if the rabbis in the room wanna, if someone came to you and gave you this challenge, do you think you would take them up on it? Would you push them with a builder's cubit with your gardening trowel? Thank you, Rabbi Zaslow.
That's so funny. I actually think that most rabbis think of themselves as Hillels. I put this in the chat, but I think we actually are more like Shammai, and I think that's the like gates of hurrah that we deal with.
Yeah,
Is
thank
like
you.
when people are coming at you all the time. I think sometimes a reaction when it's annoying is to like push away, and we all want to be Hillel that's like patient and like
right,
takes everyone for who they are and what they're bringing.
Yeah, definitely. We were discussing this at a session last night. We were talking about this kind of question of, well, am I on the clock or not? Right. If I'm on the clock, then yeah, I'm here for every single question you have. Jennifer, yes.
Hi. Well, I'm not a rabbi. I'm an educator, but I'm not a rabbi. I think I so agree with Rabbi Jacobson that it's so right. We want to think of ourselves as Hillel. We want to be thought of that way. And my thought on this is, what is my experience already with this so-called nunnik, or people like this nunnik, and my experience. So am I assuming nudnikness when the person is genuine, or vice versa? And so I have caught myself, especially when I was younger, making an assumption once about a preteen, where I thought the person was being difficult, and this person had more challenges than I realized. And that was a quick learning. that has stayed with me, but I still catch myself like wondering, is this person trying to be difficult, or is this person really how they see the world and really coming uh,
Yeah.
with a genuineness? So I
Yeah.
think that's part of the hard part. And then the assumptions I make the next time I deal with the same
Mm.
person, and the next time, very
Mm.
hard to see them fresh
Mm.
when I've dealt with the nickery before.
Nice. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good.
Josh, and then I'm going to go on to the next text.
Hi. Just thinking that in this, it's sometimes the way someone asks the question. So if
Mm.
someone were to just say, what's, what's the one word to describe Torah, or just like one, like a simple question like that. But the way that this person is asking is, convert me on the condition that you teach me the entire Torah standing on one foot. So
Right.
it makes it seem like there's like like a condition there instead of
Yeah.
just asking the question that they're wanting to ask. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Right. I like that. Right. It's at the very, if we're being charitable, it's quirky. And if we're not being charitable, it's like, what the hell? Why do I have to do it? You know, why are you making me jump through these hoops? Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we see here, right, that it's certainly ambiguous in two ways, right? Because the Shammai and Hillel respond differently. And for us, and probably for Shammai and Hillel as well, I think we might debate whether or not this person was doing it in good faith. So let's move on to somebody who's definitely not doing it in good faith. This is a very long text, and the gist of it is really what matters. So I'm gonna read aloud what matters. You can feel free to read all of it. The Gemara related, there was an incident involving two people who wagered with each other and said, anyone who will go and aggravate Hillel to the point that he reprimands him will take 400 zuz. So one of them said, I'll do it. That day he chose to bother Hillel was Erev Shabbat, and Hillel was washing his head. He went and passed the entrance to Hillel's house and in a demeaning manner said, who here is Hillel? Who here is Hillel? Hillel came outside and said, what do you seek? He said, I have a question. Hillel said, ask. And the man asked, why are the heads of Babylonians oval? So this is going to be the pattern where the guy shows up to the house sort of in a row over the course of one afternoon, calling for Hillel to come out and asking him these sort of trivial questions. So he asks, why are the heads of Babylonians oval? He asks, why are the eyes of the residents of Tadmor bleary? He asks, why do Africans have wide feet? He's just asking these pretty inane questions that are coming out of nowhere. And he's doing it while Hillel is busy getting ready for Shabbat. And Hillel is totally chill about the whole thing. He answers all the questions, it's totally fine. And then finally, the man himself gets angry. I'm down here now. Are you Hillel, whom they call the Nasi of Israel? He said to him, that's me. If it's you, then may there not be many like you in Israel. What for? Well, because I lost 400 zoos because of you. And Hillel, says, well, you know what? It's better that you lost this money than that I should get angry. So this will probably be the easiest one of the day. Is this guy being a nudnik? Okay, I just heard my partner yell from downstairs, yes. Yes, of course he is. He is trying to do it in sort of modern dialect. We would call this trolling, right? He is doing it only for the sake of annoying. That is the entire point of it. And I'm assuming, as Rabbi Jacobson said earlier, I think with this guy, because I think we can tell he's maybe trying to be annoying. We probably would not have the patience of Hillel. If anybody believes that they would like to try, or that they would, if put in the situation they would, I'm open to it. But I know I'd be pretty annoyed. This also brings up the issue of incessant questioning. In this case, of course, it's being done in bad faith. But incessant questioning is something that we also associate with little children. So in case you were wondering, little children could at least be read as nudniks as well, perhaps even be nudniks.
Oh yeah, like totally by nature. But here's the question that I've never
Yeah.
thought of in this way before. Like we make Hillel into this like ultimate model, right? Of virtue. And is there such a thing as
Too
as
much
said, like
patience?
too much patience, you know, like
Mm.
he's like, I will not get upset. Like, is that even possible? Like, have we just like have the rabbis just created this mythology of Hillel, you know, in order to
Mm.
create this model that's like not realistic?
Mm. So I like this. I don't know if, oh, sorry, Rabbi Zaslow.
Like as a teacher, I wonder if it's fair to like the other students in the
Mm.
space when
Mm.
you're now I don't know. Now I'm like disagreeing with myself. Like on one hand, as a teacher, then you're saying like all questions are allowed, which like in certain learning spaces, and especially like in Jewish learning spaces, that seems like a commendable thing. But you're also saying like waste my time, like ask the most ridiculous, nonsensical question, like and that part doesn't feel fair to other people who are in the
Mm.
room.
Yeah, I think it feels important, at least for this one, that it isn't, I mean, for good or for bad, it's not happening while Hillel is teaching, right? So there aren't, in this case, other students to be thinking of. Although, again, I would be annoyed because what Hillel is doing is getting ready for Shabbat and washing his hair, right? Which is just, why, don't interrupt me while I'm doing that. So, and yet, again, Hillel in this case is like, yeah, sure, yeah, what do you got? You know? Okay, so all right, so here we have the Nudnik who is clearly doing it for the sake of trolling, meaning there's no point to it besides angering. Now we get to a very different intentional kind of Nudnik, our old friend Korach. This is a famous midrash about Korach, where the rabbis are wondering, you know, when Korach raised this challenge to Moshe's authority, how did he do it? So I'll read this again. Or I'm going to sort of paraphrase while you look at it, if that's okay with you. So there is a commandment you know, put tzitzit on your garments and to have um, and to have, you know, one of the strands be blue. So Korach says, well, what about a tallis that's entirely blue, right? If it's entirely blue, then surely you're exempt from having the tassel be blue. And Moshe says, nope, still have to have the tassels. And Cross says, well, that's, you know, ridiculous. And then he brings up another point. He says, how about if there's a house that's full of Torahs? Therefore, probably you don't need to have a mezuzah, right? I mean, a mezuzah is just a couple of passages, and the Torah is all of them. And Moshe says, no, you need to still have all of them. And Korach again says, this doesn't make sense. And really, I can tell because this doesn't make sense that these are not things that God commanded you. You are inventing them yourself. So, is he being a nudnik? Or is this different than the last guy? Or if he is being a nudnik, is he doing so differently than the last guy?
Hey, he's not being a Nick. He's asking good questions.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The guy that was bothering Hillel right before Shabbat was asking ridiculous questions.
Mm.
He had an ulterior motive to
Mm-hmm.
annoy him, whereas Korach is asking good questions that
Yeah.
are well thought out.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, he has an ulterior motive, but it's still in better faith, right? He's trying to challenge Moshe's authority, right? He's asking these questions. I mean, he's sort of like cross-examining Moshe. So he's definitely doing it in a hostile manner, but I agree with you that he's not doing it just to annoy, right? There's clearly something that bothers him about the mitzvot and Moshe that he's trying to address through these very challenging questions. If you were in Moshe's place, how would you feel about Korach and how might you act towards him? Yes, please, Rabbi Jacobson.
Okay, and you can tell me if I'm talking too much. I usually
You're
don't.
doing great.
Great,
Please.
but I don't know why I'm this topic. Okay, so here's my thing with Korach. The rabbis, you know, definitely the Torah, you know, in the narrative around Korach, and then the rabbis sort of decide that like he's just like such a bad guy, and you know he's the example of a machloket, an argument that's not for the sake of heaven, and that you know his challenging of Moses is always wrong. But I actually find both in the Torah narrative and in so many of the midrashim about him, that
Mhm.
he's actually bringing up really reasonable questions, right?
Mhm.
Like, God says you're a kingdom of priests, and he's like, Moses, why are you above us, right? I think that's a very
Mhm.
legitimate question that
Mhm.
probably should be asked, and we'd probably be asking that question anyway, even if we didn't have the story of Korach. And here
Mhm.
we're actually learning good Torah by seeing the answers and hearing these questions. Like this feels, L'Shem Shemayim, like this feels much more legitimate than just being a nudnik.
Yeah.
But because he's sort of like created as the sort of like interlocutor, the one who's challenging Moses, like the tradition wants to say that he's wrong because he's
Right.
because he's challenging authority. And I don't know, maybe I'm just anti-authoritarian, but I think that's
Yeah.
actually really healthy.
Yeah. No, I love this, right? If you have a strong stake in Moshe's authority, then you do not care for Korach right now. Right?
Yeah.
But if, right, you're saying, hey, these are some good questions, right? We should question power, then good, right? Maybe this doesn't count, right? Maybe this is sort of like an honest rebel, and not simply a nudnik.
Well, I think, Korach is a provocateur, right? And I'm
Yes.
not sure if that's exactly the same as a nudnik,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
I mean, and his intention is not actually to have an interesting Torah discussion with Moses,
Mm.
um,
Interesting.
right? Uh, it, it's just,
Mm.
it's just, it feels like just this, right?
Mm.
And so,
Mm.
I think, it looks like, I think it was Finn who said something about his intentions are good. I don't think Korach's intentions are good.
Mm. His intentions are certainly not friendly towards Moshe. They might be good towards his faction, but I think you're right, Randy, right? That at the very least, even if he's doing these in good faith in a certain sense, it's a debate. He wants to win. This is not relational.
Right.
So there is that. It's definitely hostile. Yes, Jennifer, and then I'm going to move on to the next text.
Yes, I'm wondering if Korach, the reason we talk about him so much and the rabbis refer to him so much, is that he is fulfilling a role that the rabbis want to say themselves. This is kind of, I feel
Oh.
like when I'm thinking from Rabbi Jacobson's talk, um, you know, these are good questions. How he's coming at them do not seem very again, I don't know if it's genuine or maybe it is genuine in a way that we're uncomfortable with. But the rabbis are getting a need met and getting us regular folks hearing these stories of things maybe they want us to think about or they wonder themselves, but they have to
Mm.
play the role of everything Moshe did was right.
Mm.
Not everything, but he of course was following God. So I find that really interesting, and it makes me think what Randy said about the provocateur. Yes, he certainly was. Can a provocateur? I've never thought of this before.
Mm.
Can a provocateur be a nunnik, and vice versa? Like maybe people we think of as nunniks are
Mm.
sometimes provocateurs, and we don't want to see it that way.
Yeah. So there was a text. There's one text I really want to include that I didn't because I felt it would be overstuffed. And it was the one non-Jewish text. If we want to talk about a provocateur who identifies as a nudnik, that would be Socrates, right? Socrates, in his trial where he's going to be sentenced to death, calls himself a gadfly, right? He's saying, my job is to be here and pester you and wake you up and, right, all of these things. All right, so he very proudly, and they sentence him to exile or death for it, is naming, yep, I'm being both of these things. So thank you for that. It's very on point. All right, so this next one, Baba Messiah 84a. This is the end of a very famous story involving Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, or Reish Lakish. They are a very famous pair of rabbis, quite possibly in love. They had a major falling out, following which Reish Lakish died, and that's where this passage picks up. So Reish Lakish died. Rabbi Yochanan was sorely pained over losing him. The rabbi said, who will go to calm Rabbi Yochanan's mind and comfort him over his loss? They said, let Rabbi Elazar ben Padat go, as his statements are sharp. Rabbi Elazar ben Padat went and sat before Rabbi Yochanan. With regard to every matter that Rabbi Yochanan would say, Rabbi Elazar ben Padat would say to him, there's a ruling which is taught in a breita that supports your opinion. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, "Are you comparable to Reish Lakish? In my discussion with him, when I would state a matter, he would raise 24 difficulties against me in an attempt to disprove my claim, and I would answer him with 24 answers, and the halacha by itself would become broadened and clarified. And yet you say to me there's a ruling which is taught in a Breita that supports your opinion. Do I not know that what I say is good?" So here's the real question. Who's the Nudnik here? Is there one? And if so, who is it? And this was debatable in my household the other day. So your options are Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish, or Elazar ben Padat. Name the Nudnik. Okay. And by the way, folks who have been participating, feel free to keep chiming in. You're good. I'll do the
Oh, Reish Lakish is the Nudnik, even though he's passed away. But can you
Go
imagine
on.
like somebody is raising up 24 disagreements with every single thing that you say? Imagine you're a rabbi, it's Kiddush, and somebody comes up to you and they say, I have 24 disagreements about your sermon today. That's a Nudnik.
So Rabbi Zaslow, I know one rabbi who would love to get these challenges. Do you know who I'm thinking of? I am thinking of Rabbi Yochanan, that's right. Now, maybe not at Kiddush he would like this, but clearly in studying he would love this. Rabbi Jacobson, make your case for Ben Padat being the Nudnik. Yes.
Okay, first of all, Nudnik is in the eye of the beholder, right? Reish Lakish was what Rabbi Yochanan needed, right? That's what makes you sharper. Someone who's going to debate with you, someone who's going to be like, it was a consensual situation they were in, right? Like that's how they learn together. Now, listen, everyone likes a nice compliment once in a while, but for someone who's just responding like, yes, you're the best, it's not a real conversation. It's just you're just there to just like you're just trying to make me feel better. It's not authentic, right? Because no one agrees with you all the time.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So
he's just sort of
really
performing
knew me like someone who agrees with her all the time.
And yet she also likes me. Fascinating. Yeah, so what I love about this, what's that?
I mean, I don't buy that. She married you, but like, yeah, you don't want someone who's just like, sucking up all the time.
Yeah. She does. So thank you. So what I like here, right, is that Reish Lakish is sort of classically we could see as the Nudnik just because he's doing the challenging we expect. But Ben Padat, I would say that he's being annoyingly agreeable. And that's not what he was looking for.
Okay,
Yes, Randy.
But didn't they send Ben Porat because they said his statements are sharp?
I think they just meant like very like smart.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So he
rather
was
than
reading
like
the room. He was reading the room, and he felt like maybe comforting to comfort the mourner, he should agree with him and tell him those things. But
yeah,
that
I mean, I
doesn't feel
definitely
very. Yeah, I mean, by the response, it didn't seem like it was very sharp.
I see. Right. It was maybe he was sharp in the sense that he could connect texts to each other, but not sharp in the sense of knowing what the guy is looking for.
Reading the room,
Yeah,
right? And that's
legit.
part of the thing about a Nudnik is a Nudnik does not know how to read the room.
Yeah. So this is where we get into sort of unintentional Nudnikism. All right, that he's not really meaning to do it, that he's really trying to play along. And this gets us to the text that pretty much inspired this entire session. So Bava Batra, I'm going to summarize the Mishnah because it's basically they're talking about if a dove chick is found close to a dovecote or far from a dovecote, who does it belong to? Right? If it's found closer to it, it belongs to the owner. If it's further, it belongs to the finder. If it's between two dovecotes, then which one is it closer to? And if it's half and half, then the owners divide the value of the check. And the Gemara goes on about this for a while, and then we get this line. And actually, I'm going to give a little background too. So growing up, I read the Big Book of Jewish Humor a lot. I was not from Boston. I did not know Rabbi Walducks, but I was obsessed with this book. And this passage is in one of the margins of that book. And I had no idea that it was really Talmud. Sometime in the last year, my partner brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, that's real. This really like this is a real text." So Rabbi Yirmiyah raises a dilemma. If one leg of the chick was within 50 cubits of the dovecote and one leg was beyond 50 cubits, what's the halacha? And the Gemara comments, it was for this that they removed Rabbi Yirmiyah from the study hall, which just straight up feels like a punchline. So I think here I'm going to move us along a little bit, right? I think they're seeing him as a nudnik because they're seeing this question as, I guess, one step too far, which is curious, right? Because I think the Talmudic rabbis are known for getting crazy nitpicky, for asking questions that seem ridiculous to us as readers. And yet, wildly enough, they see Rabbi Yirmiyah as having gone too far. Actually, whoever's running, do I end at 50 or at 55? I want to figure out my pacing.
50, but it honestly, a lot of people have gone longer. So as long as you end by 11, we're fine.
Okay, okay. I think I'll still move on anyhow. I know that there's probably more about Rabbi Yirmiyah that we could discuss. I guess I'll say one more thing with him because we're talking about unintentional nudniks, which I believe he is. That raises this question of, well, why would he be doing this anyhow? Actually, you know what? I realize we're going to get to that in a moment. All right, so let's before we go further, we'll sort of summarize the attitudes one might have towards a nudnik. You can be calm or angry. We see that with Hillel and Shammai. Similarly, patient, impatient, appreciative, critical, take seriously, be dismissive, right? I think that depending on how we are reading them and how we are feeling that day, we might sort of shine our faces or not on the nudnik. Yeah, thank you, Rabbi Jacobson. I mean, it's a neat question. Why the hell? Why the hell not? Why not allow it? All right. So now let's get into the why of it. Also, hello, Joe Lubkin. So the question now is sort of why would somebody be a nudnik? So here I'm just sharing what I have so far, right? That they can be doing it intentionally or unintentional. Sorry, yeah, they can, if intentionally, they can be trolling, or it can be like a good faith rebelling. And then if unintentionally, I think it might be because they are just hyper focused on a topic, they're absorbed, and they're oblivious to sort of other cues. For the sake of our conversation today, I want to focus only on unintentional nudniks. I want us to find ways to be compassionately understand the unintentional nudnik and see how this compassionate understanding impacts how we feel and deal with them. Great, perfect. So yes, Eliza.
Yeah, I wasn't here for like the first 15 minutes or so, so I'm not sure if this particular aspect of perceived nudnikism has been covered, but I think some of the behaviors that I've seen reflected in like this description of, various interpretations of nudniks is what would now be called what would we now be called certain behaviors on the autism spectrum, and
Ding, 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 ding.
I have this experience directly because I've been on the spectrum since basically 4 years old. And a lot of this stuff, I can tell you, is very unintentional and very much driven by passion for like contributing to conversation and trying to really get our viewpoint across. And I'm just thinking like, yeah, is it annoying to deal with? I get it. I understand it is like sometimes, but man, do I understand it. Man, if I've been there. So, I mean, so for me, I have to work hard that's sort of what I try to keep in mind when I have that internal cringe moment sometimes when I see this sort of behavior when I feel it's unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad some other people in the comments saying it too. I find these nudniks a little relatable. I think that a person could be in a highly absorbed obsessive or oblivious state for a variety of reasons, they might just be really enjoying themselves, right? If this topic is your special interest, then you are never going to be ready to be done with it. A person might also be acting as a nudnik because they might be very anxious, right? They're focused on a topic, they want to get to the bottom of it, it's bothering them. And again, that desire to clear it up sort of trumps any desire to, or any awareness of what's going on around them. So I mean, what's interesting, and again, I'm speaking as a psychotherapist, various mental health diagnoses are relevant here. I'm going to speak for myself as well as somebody on the bipolar spectrum. I can be a nudnik when I'm just too excited or agitated by a topic to also pay attention to how others are experiencing my participation. As a therapist, I see many people who are obsessed or absorbed or oblivious. And it's interesting because you can throw sort of different diagnoses at folks, which often reflects sort of our own attitudes, our own expectations. So I'll feel free to unmute to call out for this one. So if someone is explaining something to you sort of ad nauseum, even though you didn't ask, what's that usually called? So they're like lecturing you. Yes, thank you very much, Samantha. Right. So the classic term is mansplaining. And mansplaining usually gets categorized under things like narcissism and toxic masculinity. And yet, has anyone ever heard of the phrase enthusiastic info dumping? It's a great phrase, isn't it? I'm really glad it was taught to me by a good friend of mine. And right, enthusiastic info dumping, that's more typical of somebody on the spectrum, right? And so that's very interesting, right? Because we could see this person lecturing you as just sort of an arrogant jerk who thinks you need to learn those things, or just someone who's nerding out and who has to say all of those things. And let's be real, if they're not, you can experience either of them as nudnik, but you're going to feel really differently about them, right? If you think this guy thinks he knows better than me, versus, I'm going to guess that comment was from my dad. Right. Either this guy thinks he knows better than me versus, oh, this guy can't stop talking about his special interest. There are many ways, in which the unintentional nudnik may be somebody who is neurodivergent. So now that we've imagined this rather more innocent reason of being a nudnik, I imagine we might have a bit more compassion for them. So here's where it gets interesting. Is it possible and okay to feel both compassion and annoyance at the same time? Is that a thing? Puck says yes. Joanna Lubkin, would you say more if you're willing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the annoyance can come up unbidden, right? Like that I can try and talk myself out of being annoyed by something, but it generally doesn't work for very long. It just kind of comes out sideways. But patience is something I can generally work on and like consciously choose some of the time. And then sometimes like, okay, we've reached a point where I am no longer able to participate in this, or this is no longer respectful, right? So I feel like some of that as well. But boy, am I often both annoyed and trying to be patient and compassionate frequently.
Yeah, I mean, I think hopefully it's a common experience, right? Because otherwise we're just nice to the people who are easy to like. Right. And this is saying, yeah, there are some difficult people, and those difficult people might have a good reason for being difficult. And that doesn't mean you have to like them or want to be around them, but we owe them a certain amount of, dignity, basically. So approaches one might take towards a nudnik. So first we have the Kotzker-Rabi. Sorry that I don't have a full citation on this. All that is thought should not be said, all that is said should not be written, all that is written should not be published, and all that is published should not be read. We might take this to imply that it's okay to shut a nudnik down. I really wasn't able to find much text that otherwise endorsed it. I would say Shammai obviously endorses, and I guess the rabbis who kicked out Rabbi Yirmiyah would say that. Obviously, we're going to get to the more sort of virtuous approaches here. So we have Pirkei Avot. Also, this should be 2. Real-time editing, awesome. What is the right path a person should choose? Whatever is honorable to oneself and brings honor to others. Right, so that's going to be a key principle here, that when we're dealing with a Nudnik, certainly we want to find a way to respect them, but also respect ourselves. I think Rabbi Zaslow earlier was talking about I think I was talking about respecting one's own time, and Rabbi Zaslow was talking about respecting, say, the other students in the classroom, who may be, this Nudnik, their interest is getting in the way of that learning. So I was so pleased when I found these passages from the Rambam's Mishnah Torah. If the teacher taught a concept and was not grasped by the students, they should not become upset with them and display anger. Rather, they should repeat and review the matter, even if they must do so many times, until they appreciate the depths of the halacha. Similarly, the student should not say, "I understood," when they did not understand. That rather, they should ask again and again, even if they require several repetitions. If the teacher becomes upset and displays anger, they should tell him, "My teacher, this is Torah. It is necessary that I study, and my powers of comprehension are weak," which is a great line to sort of shame your teacher with. And then this line, which really, this sort of nailed me as one of the reasons I guess it's good that I left teaching. A bashful person will not learn, nor should the short-tempered teach. Right? So Rabbi Jacobson, to your point about this, maybe I'm the problem. It's, maybe, as a teacher, I have to be more open to the variety of personalities in the room. Another bit from the Mishnah Torah. When 2 people ask questions simultaneously, who do you respond to? Well, you respond to the person whose question is on point. So I like that, because it is saying make room for everybody, but whoever is on topic, it's okay to favor them. Finally, this is sort of a classic. Just as students are obligated to honor their teacher, a teacher is obligated to honor their students and encourage them. I'll go to 13. Our sages declared, "I learned much wisdom from my teachers and even more from my colleagues. However, from my students, I learned most of all." I think what we're seeing here is that that like everybody has something to bring, and we have to allow for that. However, and I wish, and again, if anybody can send me better sources on this, what I was looking for was the advice that I would be giving. And again, anyone who's done any kind of facilitation is familiar with these already, which is about setting boundaries firmly but gently. I'd say the most classic ones would be, "Thank you for sharing. I'd like to hear from some other voices." That's a real classic at both honoring somebody and then inviting them to step back. And then another classic, I think, would be, "That's a good question, but it's not really the focus of our current discussion, but I'd be glad to learn it with you another time." Right, so it's the same, right? If you look at sort of the power, thank you, Elisa, for owning that. Right, the power of a positive no, right? The book, William Ury, that, when we are addressing somebody who's bothering us, but in a respectful way, we're saying yes to sort of our own needs in the situation. We're saying no to their particular response, but we're saying yes to the relationship we have with them, right? Moshe could have said to Korach, like, "These are some good challenges. It seems like you're doing it in a way to sort of shame me. What if we do this in a different fashion?" Right? We can take the Nudnik and honor where they're coming from, but then invite them to join us in doing it in a different way. Before I end, are there any remaining thoughts or questions, observations? Yes, Jennifer.
Yes, I loved all those responses, and I was just thinking, when I facilitate, another one that I use sometimes is if somebody is going on, but there was one thing that they said that did really contribute, or I could see lit somebody else's face up, because of what the person said, to appreciate that particular response before moving on. So sometimes there is something to appreciate, even if it's just a little thing. This was very helpful as a facilitator, so thank you. I will definitely be saving this sheet. Thanks.
Awesome. Gladly. Yes. So yes, Rabbi Jacobson.
It's also not like all or nothing. I think I really love, a bashful person will not learn, nor should the short-tempered teach. I think there have been moments when I'm learning, like I remember like in college, I was very bashful and I had a hard time talking to a lot of the professors. And I don't think I learned as much because I was too bashful. And I think there's moments I've been teaching or parenting, especially parenting, when I've been too short tempered. Right. So I think like through reflection, we're able to like look back on situations we have and sort of try to do better next time or learn from it. But it's like, it's not as, it's not all or nothing. And just like someone who knows that for whatever reason they info dump or whatever can like practice moderation, like so can we practice how we interact. It's like it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, no, I like that, right? The same way in which we might want the Nudnik to read the room, I think we have to like read the Nudnik, right?
Yeah.
What's going on with this person? What's fueling the sort of energy that they're bringing? And again, even if what we will at some point need to do is ask them to hold all their comments for a moment, we at least can bring some compassion to that. Yeah, so thanks everybody very much. This is fun. You all are great. Thank you to Temple Israel for continuing to do this awesome thing where I keep moving to different cities, but I keep getting to do this.
Oh yeah.
So,
Thanks
you
for
very
coming,
much.
Matt.
Yep. Okay.
And thanks everyone for participating.